So, you want to know how pals work inside a base? In this video, I'll explain how to organize your pals effectively no matter your setup. We'll dive into important game mechanics, base organization, pal prioritizing tasks, and a bunch more. Whether you have different pals, layouts, or needs, this video has you covered. Starting off, let's dive into how pals work inside a base. For those who don't know, pals follow a priority system when completing tasks. Each work suitability, like mining, kindling, transporting, etc., has a number, and the lower the number, the higher the priority. For example, this incineram has mining, kindling, and transporting. Since transporting has the higher priority, incineram will stop mining to pick up crops if needed. If you have a bunch of items to cook and smelt, then incineram will stop mining and transporting to start kindling instead. To prevent this, you can disable other work suitability so your pal only does one task. This is very important as each pal is better at doing tasks than others, so for this Incineram, which is the best kindling pal in the game, we want him to only focus on kindling. You could also pick up a pal and throw them at their designated task. This works the same as using a monitoring stand and assigning a pal to a certain task. The downside to this is they will never leave their task even when the task has been completed. As a result, I would recommend just disabling the other work suitabilities and let the pals roam around the base. This way, when they finish a task, they will move straight onto another task if one's available. Because there's so much information, I'd recommend experimenting. For example, if you're staying at a base and you quickly need some food but you have a bunch of ore smelting, then it's best to just throw the pal onto the food to quickly obtain what you need. Then, to get the pal to start kindling all the other tasks again, you simply pick up the pal and roll. This cancels the dedicated task. You can also just use the monitoring stand if one's close by. There are some exceptions to having a pal do more than one work suitability, but this all depends on your base setup and how fast your pals can do each task. For example, if we have a watering pal that can also do transporting, then whenever the crops are finished, the watering pal will stop watering and start transporting the crops. However, this can slow down your watering production due to the watering having a lower priority. When a pal works, their sanity drains faster. Because the sanity drains faster when working, the pal will get less time to go idle, which can make your pal completely stop working depending on your setup. This can make your pals produce less production, so you want to experiment with your pals to see if it's actually worth it or not. For me personally, I have tested every single pal in the game and found the best pals for each work suitability. Because of this, I've cancelled out all the other work suitabilities so they only do what they're best at. Looking at my pals, you may have noticed I'm not even using a cooling pal to prevent my food and ingredients from expiring. This is because all the pals in the game have different hunger levels which they will eat when it drops down to 50%. However, when a pal eats food, the food they're eating timer resets. So if you have a bunch of pals with different hunger levels, then the food will always keep refreshing. If you have pals that all have similar hunger levels, you can simply put them out in your base one by one, but make sure you wait a little bit to give them time for the hunger to drain. When you don't use a cooling pal, all the other items will still deplete, but because I can produce so much, this isn't a problem for me, which allows me to use another pal instead. If you find that you can't do this, you can always put all the other food inside the gilded chest, as this chest makes items not depleted. Now you know how pals function inside a base, let's take a look at the best ways to set your base up. When planning a design for your base, you want the same work suitability tasks together. This will make the pals stay in the same area, which will increase your production over a long period of time. This is why you can see I have all my mining sites in the same area, my crops in the same area, my production lines all together, and so forth. To make the base even better, you want to place down chests next to all your production tasks. Doing this decreases the transporting time and can help organize your items. This will allow your transporting pals to quickly pick up items and deposit them straight away. This is also important as it decreases the transporting time, allowing you to deposit more items per hour. If we take a look at the priority list again, you will notice each transporting task has its own priority list. The highest priority item are food items, then disposable items, and lastly we have normal items. This means you want your mining sites close to your plantations and feeding box, which will make it easier for your transporting pals to transport all the items. As you can see, despite me having a bunch of crops and food being cooked, my transporting pals have still managed to transport some mining items. If they don't manage to transport any mining items, you will need more transporting pals, or you can just wait until the cooked food has all been transported. Making a base setup effectively can drastically increase your hourly rates. This base design could be slightly improved if I put the kindling structures next to the mining site, since transporting pals have to deposit them inside the feeding box. For this, I would just have to simply swap the kindling structures with these two production lines. As you can see, now my transporting pals will be able to deposit much more items all from swapping some structures around. When using structures, if you don't click this box, then the transporting pals won't collect the items from inside. If you have a bunch of food already, then I'd recommend not clicking this box, as you can swap a transporting pal for a different pal to help in production. You can always manually collect the food and ingots whenever you return back to base. For a depositing trick, you can sort items from your inventory into chests. The items will go inside any chest that already contains these items. Because of this, I'd recommend having a chest with a bunch of ones of that item, so you can quickly store away thousands at a time. Next to your personal chest area, you want an item retrieval machine, since it lets you take any item from any chest in your base, allowing you to easily collect all the items to organize your chests. If you have an expedition site inside your base, you can still deploy the pals that are inside your pal box. This is a great way to obtain passive resources. However, there's a limit to one expedition site per base, so I'd recommend you have these in every base you have. Moving on to pal setups, this can be complicated, as every single player has different resource needs and progress completed. So, to make things simple, I will just use my basic setup. If I need more crops, I will have 2 prunellias with 1 Lulu. To water the crops, I will also add in 1 Gelroy for the watering. Brunellia's partner skill does stack, but it always skips the pal to get an increase in harvesting. This means you will receive more crops when you have 2, 4, 6, 8 or 10 prunellias. Having 3, 5, 7 or 9 prunellias doesn't increase the amount harvested. Lulu's partner skill also does stack, but to see an increase you need 8 Lulus, which is a tremendous amount. I'd only advise this when you have an orchard skill tree farm. For this setup, this is enough pals to produce these crops at a fast rate. This also gives me a bunch of free pal slots to use however I like, but you will need a transporting pal to transport all the crops. If you have more plantations, you will want to add more prunellias for their partner skill, as well as a Jelliot for the partner skill with Gelroy. If you notice the watering pals are falling too far behind, then you just want to add in more Gelroys, since Gelroys are much better than Jelliots, as you only need 1 Jelliot for the partner skill to be active. Depending on the size of your plantation, you will also need 1 or 2 more transporting pals. With this setup, you will end up with more food than needed, allowing you to just use 1 of each pal until your food starts to get low. For mining, I like to use a minimum of 3 menace stings as well as another transporting pal. With these 3 menace stings, I can gain an abundance of ores. If you need a certain type of ore, you can assign that pal to that task, and the mining pal will continuously gather that type of ore, since we have a transporting pal always depositing from the ore site. Because my mining pals are so fast, my transporting pals will never be able to transport all the items. Because of this, if you want a fully automatic mining base, you will need a transporting pal for every mining site inside the base. I personally just pick up these items myself and deposit them into the closest chest every time I visit the base. Now I have 2 prunellias, a Lulu with a Gelroy, 3 menace stings and 2 transporting pals. This gives me 6 free slots, but if you're using a cooling pal, then this will drop down to 5 free slots. This base has oil veins which requires electricity. For this I only need 1 Dazzy Knot, giving us 4 to 5 empty slots. If we fast forward the time and take a look at the oil extractors, we can see we don't need to add any more transporting pals since all the oil is getting deposited. If you can't keep enough power inside a base, you can always place down another large generator and temporarily dump more electrical pals until both generators are 100%. This should keep the electricity up while the electricity pal takes a rest. This leaves us with 5 free slots what we can use on anything we want. I like to leave in a bee guard for honey, since that's the only item we need for making cakes, since we can buy all the rest of the ingredients from a wandering trader. With this setup, I will be producing a lot of food and ores, so I will need a kindling pal to smelt and cook all our products. My incinerams are really fast, so it won't take long to finish a full oven and furnace. You can even place out a handling pile to craft the ores into nails to make some passive money. Because our transporting piles all have level 5 transporting, they can deposit 40 items at a time. So if we quickly fast forward time, we can go and check the oil. We want to check the oil because oil is the lowest transporting priority because it is classed as normal items. So if you can see the oil is being deposited, you can straight away tell you don't need to increase your transporting piles. You can even add in a handling pile, but this will require another transporting pile if you decide to tick the box. If I have only one or a few items to craft, I just use the pal inside my party since my god things all have level 5 handling. With this base setup, you can literally add and remove pals to sort your needs. Because you will be swapping around your pals, I like to favourite all my base pals. When it comes to ranch pals, I favourite all these twice so they get 2 lines. For fighting pals, I favourite them 3 times for 3 lines. This allows me to quickly use the PAL filter to find the types of pals I need. If you want to turn this into a breeding base, you all know that you need 2 pals in a pen to start breeding. Maxing out a base will require 14 breeding pals. However, the last pal should be a Braloha because its partner skill decreases the mating time. I use a large incubator, so I also need an electric pal for power. The electric pal will also slowly generate oil from the extractor, making this the best base location for breeding due to this fact. Because of the electricity pal, we can only have 12 pals breeding instead of 14. So if you never need oil again, you can always quickly use an electric pal just to power the generator to hatch all the eggs. Doing this will allow you to use all 14 breeding pals. If you really want the most out of your base, you can trap your pals inside a box. You want them to have access to a hot springs and some food. Doing this will allow the pals to work even when there isn't a workstation nearby. This cancels out the travelling time completely, making this a super fast method. However, if you watched my video 7 months ago when I was testing pals, you will already know about this glitch. I still wouldn't recommend relying on this method as a few work suitability skills have been secretly patched by Pocket Pair. As you can see, this Kingling pal doesn't even do it anymore when 7 months ago he used to be able to. I will be giving away a Palworld base endgame pack. This contains all the best base pals in the game for every work suitability. As a bonus, I'm including all the ranch pals so you can passively obtain all these items on screen. To receive these pals, just join my Discord server. The link's in the description and on my YouTube profile. Send me a direct message so I can keep in touch with you, making sure everyone receives all the pals. If you have already received my pals previously, you can still obtain these as these are all level 65 with maxed out luck. If you like this base design, you can click here to watch my step-by-step tutorial on how to build it. I hope you have a great day. It's been your boy Trops and I'll catch you in the next one.